Video opens with a high-energy, cinematic shot of a modern athlete crossing a finish line, medals glinting. The sound is epic and triumphant. Then, abrupt cut to silence and a stark, beautiful shot of the ancient ruins of Olympia, Greece. The sun is low in the sky. Forget the gold medals. Forget the silver, the bronze, the million-dollar endorsement deals, and the tearful podium ceremonies. For over 1,000 years, at the original Olympic Games, none of that existed. The ultimate prize, the only prize for victory, was this: a simple crown of olive leaves, woven from the branches of a sacred tree. So why did they do it? Why would men travel for months, crossing war-torn lands under a sacred truce, to compete naked in front of 50,000 spectators? Why would they push their bodies to the absolute brink of collapse, all for a wreath that would wither and die in a matter of days? The answer is one of the most powerful and practical ideas ever conceived.
It's a concept that gets to the very heart of human potential, the psychology of healthy competition, and the relentless drive for excellence. The ancient Greeks called it arete. Arete doesn't have a simple English translation. It's not just virtue or excellence. It was the act of living up to your fullest potential. The pursuit of becoming the best version of yourself, morally, intellectually, and physically. The Olympic Games weren't just a sporting event. They were a religious festival and a cultural demonstration of arete in its purest form. The competition, the struggle, what they called the Agon, wasn't about defeating an opponent. It was about using that opponent as a whetstone to sharpen your own abilities, to reveal your character, and to honor the gods with the perfection of your human form and effort.
In this video, we are not just exploring history. We are decoding a psychological blueprint. We'll uncover how the ancient Olympians harnessed intrinsic motivation, why their society believed that physical fitness was a moral duty, and what timeless lessons their approach to competition can teach us about achieving our own goals, not for a medal or for applause, but for the profound satisfaction of the striving itself. This is the story of how a simple olive wreath became the most coveted prize on earth, and what it can teach us about winning at the game of life. The screen transitions from the title card to a slow-motion shot of a perfect marble statue, like the discus thrower of Myron. The camera pans across the idealized muscles, the look of focused potential. This image then dissolves into a stylized reenactment of a sun-dappled gymnasium, where older, bearded men talk philosophy with young, athletic boys practicing their form. This pursuit of excellence wasn't confined to the athletic field.
It was a philosophy for life, encapsulated in another Greek concept, Kalokagathia. The word joins kalos, meaning beautiful or noble, with agathos, meaning good or virtuous.
The idea was that physical excellence and moral excellence were intertwined. To the Greeks, a lazy, undisciplined body was the sign of a lazy, undisciplined mind. The gymnasium wasn't just a place to train the body, it was a place to cultivate character, where physical exertion and philosophical debate happened side by side. A citizen had a duty to be fit, not for vanity, but to be ready to defend the city, to have the stamina for civic debate, and to present a worthy offering to the gods.
Visuals shift to a dramatic reenactment of the pancration, the brutal, all-out combat sport. But the focus isn't on the violence. It's on the intense, focused strain of the competitors. We see a close-up of a fighter, on the brink of submission, whose eyes show not fear, but fierce determination. And at the heart of this physical and moral test was the Agon, the struggle.
The Greeks understood a fundamental psychological truth: true growth only happens under pressure. Your opponent wasn't your enemy, he was your partner in excellence. He was the obstacle necessary to force you beyond your own perceived limits. Without a worthy adversary, you could never discover the depths of your own strength and spirit.
The ultimate example of this is the story of Arrhichion of Phegalia, a pancratist competing in the final. Trapped in a stranglehold and with his opponent crushing his legs, Arrhichion, as he was suffocating, used his last ounce of strength to dislocate his rival's ankle.
The pain was so intense the opponent tapped out, submitting. But in that final effort, Arrhichion had broken his own neck. He was crowned the victor, posthumously.
To our modern minds, it's a tragedy. To the ancient Greeks, it was the ultimate triumph. Arrhichion had not surrendered to the struggle. He had won the Agon not just with his body, but with his will.
This mindset was reinforced by a sacred system of honor and shame. Before the games began, every athlete, their father, their brothers, and their trainers swore a solemn oath not to cheat or act with malice. For those who broke it, the punishment wasn't a fine paid to a committee.
It was a fine used to build a bronze statue of Zeus, a Zane, erected at the entrance to the stadium. On its base, the cheater's name and crime were inscribed for all to see, for all time.
Imagine it, to reach the field of glory, every future athlete had to walk past a monument to dishonor. Shame was a far greater deterrent than any fine. The message was clear. How you competed was infinitely more important than whether you won. The ancient reenactments dissolve into a montage of modern-day people engaged in their own struggles. A programmer staring at a complex line of code, erasing it, and starting again. A chef meticulously plating a dish. A weekend runner pushing up a steep hill, grimacing with effort, alone. So how do we apply this psychological blueprint today? In a world driven by external rewards? First, we must redefine our opponent. In most of our lives, the opponent isn't another person. It's the resistance we feel when trying something difficult.
It's the voice of procrastination. It's the gap between our current ability and our ambition. We must learn to seek out this Agon, to choose the harder project, to learn the difficult skill, to welcome the struggle not as an obstacle, but as the very process of our own becoming.
Second, we focus on the effort, not the applause. The Greeks knew that the olive wreath was just a symbol. The true prize was internal, the knowledge that you had not flinched, that you had given your all, that you had honored the struggle with your best self. This is the essence of intrinsic motivation. It's the profound satisfaction found in the deep focus of the work itself, what modern psychology calls a flow state. That feeling is more lasting than any trophy. The visuals return to the ancient ruins of Olympia. The sun is now setting, casting long, peaceful shadows. A single, gnarled olive tree stands in the fading light. The shot holds on a single, green olive leaf. The ancient Olympic Games lasted for more than 100 years, making them one of the longest-running cultural traditions in human history. They ended not because people stopped loving sport, but because the world around them began to value different things: victory over virtue, spectacle over substance. But the idea at their core is timeless. The olive crown wasn't just a prize. It was a question. It asked the athlete, and now it asks us, did you live up to your potential? Did you give everything you had? Not for what you could gain, but for the glory of the attempt. That is the competition that truly matters. And in that arena, we all have the chance to win. Every single day, the black screen fades back in, not to an ancient scene, but to a modern one, the frantic, notification-filled screen of a smartphone. Alarms, emails, social media alerts. The sounds are jarring and chaotic. But how do we create the conditions for that daily victory?
Our modern world is an enemy of the Agon. It conspires against deep focus with a barrage of distractions, and it prizes the appearance of success over the grinding, private process of achieving it. The Greeks understood that to pursue excellence, you first needed to create a sacred space for the struggle. They called it Ekecheiria, the Olympic truce.
Visuals shift to a dramatic reenactment. A herald, carrying a staff, travels on horseback across a rugged landscape. He enters a city where soldiers are preparing for battle. He speaks, and the soldiers lay down their weapons. The scene is one of profound, respected authority. For 1 month before and after the games, this sacred truce was declared across the Greek world.
Wars were halted. Safe passage was guaranteed to all competitors and spectators. For a brief, shimmering moment in time, the entire culture agreed on one thing. The pursuit of Arete was more important than politics, commerce, or even conflict. It was a national commitment to the ideal of human potential. The practical lesson for us is not to stop wars, but to declare our own Ekecheiria. To consciously build a fortress of solitude around our most important work.
This means silencing the phone, closing the tabs, and creating blocks of time where the only thing that matters is the task at hand. It's about giving our own potential the same sacred respect the Greeks gave their games. This commitment extended to the preparation. An athlete couldn't simply show up at Olympia and compete. They were required to arrive in the nearby city-state of Elis a full month beforehand to train under the supervision of the judges. Here, their diet, their regimen, and their character were scrutinized. Any athlete who was lazy, undisciplined, or ill-prepared was simply sent home. The games were not the test, they were the final performance. The real test was the unseen, unglamorous, day-to-day discipline of the training camp. It teaches us a vital lesson about process. The goal isn't the finish line, it's falling in love with the monotonous rhythm of the training.
It's finding satisfaction in the 1,000th rep, the 100th draft, the 10th failed experiment. Because that is where Arete is truly forged, not under the lights, but in the quiet discipline of the practice ground.
The reenactment focuses on one legendary athlete, a powerfully built man, Milo of Croton. We see a stylized sequence of him as a boy, lifting a newborn calf onto his shoulders. The scene repeats, the boy growing into a man, and the calf growing into a massive bull, until he is lifting the full-grown animal. Perhaps no one embodied this process more than the legendary wrestler Milo of Croton. The story goes that he built his superhuman strength by carrying a newborn calf on his shoulders every single day. As the calf grew, so did his load, and so did his power.
It is the perfect ancient metaphor for the principle of progressive overload. Milo won 6 Olympic olive wreaths, a feat unmatched for centuries. He was a living god, the embodiment of Kalokagathia.
But his story is also a warning. The visual shifts to an old, bearded Milo, long past his prime. He is walking alone in a forest and comes across a tree trunk split with a wedge, confident in his legendary strength. He tries to pull the trunk apart with his bare hands. The wedge springs loose, and his hands are trapped. The sun sets as wolves begin to circle. Years after his final victory, an aging Milo, attempting to prove his strength was not diminished, tried to split a tree trunk with his bare hands.
The trunk snapped shut, trapping him. He who had dominated every opponent in the ring was helpless, and was said to have been devoured by wolves. The Greek lesson is profound. Arete is not a destination you arrive at.
It's not a trophy you possess forever. It is a constant, dynamic process of striving. The moment you believe you have perfected yourself, the moment you act out of pride rather than practice, is the moment you become vulnerable.
The struggle, the Agon, is a lifelong partner, not an obstacle to be overcome and then forgotten. The screen shows a beautifully decorated vase painting depicting the Heraean games.
Young women are shown running, their hair unbound, wearing a short tunic, and we must remember, this pursuit was not a universal ideal in practice. The main Olympic stage was for freeborn, Greek-speaking men only.
But the drive for excellence found other outlets. Women had their own festival at Olympia, the Heraean Games, held in honor of the goddess Hera. Their prize, too, was a crown of sacred olive. It's a reminder that the human need for the Agon, for the honorable test of one's limits, is universal, even when culture seeks to limit it. The final ancient reenactment, a chariot race.
It's chaotic and thrilling. A chariot crashes spectacularly. The driver is thrown, but quickly gets to his feet, unharmed but defeated. He watches the winner cross the finish line, not with hatred, but with a look of exhausted respect. The winner, in turn, acknowledges his fallen rival with a nod. So what of defeat? In an arena with 100 competitors, and only one victor, what becomes of the 99? They did not receive a medal for participation. They simply went home. But they did so with their honor intact. Provided they had competed with all their might, they had tested themselves against the best, and contributed to the victor's glory. The only true loss at Olympia was a loss of character. This is the final, crucial piece of the psychological puzzle, to separate the outcome from the effort.
You cannot always control the victory, but you can always control the integrity of your attempt. You can lose the match, fail the exam, or miss the promotion, and still win your personal Agon.
You win by refusing to cut corners, by facing the struggle honestly, and by getting back up to train again, tomorrow. The visuals dissolve back to the serene, Present-day ruins of Olympia at twilight. The camera glides slowly past the crumbled columns of the gymnasium and the entrance to the ancient stadium. The stones of Olympia are silent now. The cheers of the 50,000 have long since faded into the wind, but the questions they carved into the very soul of Western civilization are still here. What is your sacred truce? Where is your training ground? Who is your worthy opponent? And what is the olive wreath you are striving for? Not the one given by others, but the one you weave for yourself, leaf by leaf, through honorable, dedicated effort. The camera stops, looking through the arched tunnel that leads into the stadium. For a moment, a ghostly, shimmering image of an ancient athlete is seen, pausing at the threshold, taking a deep breath before stepping out into the sunlight and the roar of the crowd. The image fades, the ghostly image of the athlete solidifies for a moment, stepping out of the tunnel into the blinding light and the imagined roar of the ancient crowd. The sound swells not just of cheering, but of a deep, resonant hum of shared reverence. And what did he step into? Not just a stadium, but a sanctuary. For the spectator, the games were not mere entertainment, they were a form of worship. In the middle of the festival, a great procession would lead 100 oxen to the altar of Zeus to be sacrificed. The air would fill with smoke and the scent of roasting meat, which would later be shared in a communal feast. It was a civic communion, a collective pilgrimage to witness the pinnacle of human potential offered up as a tribute to the divine. The spectator was not a passive consumer of a product. He was a witness. He was there to see which man, through his struggle, could best exemplify the divine qualities of strength, discipline, and grace.
He was there to be reminded of his own potential, his own duty to pursue Arete. Visuals shift to a modern context, a packed sports stadium, fans looking at their phones.
Then, a quiet art gallery, people contemplating a masterpiece. Then, a lecture hall, students listening intently to a brilliant professor. This teaches us to be better spectators in our own lives.
To look for the Arete in others, not just in athletes, but in the skilled craftsman, the dedicated teacher, the innovative scientist. To give our full, undivided attention not just to the result, but to the masterful process.
To witness excellence is to be inspired by it, to feel the call to our own higher capabilities. To truly see someone else's struggle and mastery is to honor the divine spark in them, and in ourselves. The visuals return to an ancient reenactment. A victor, exhausted and covered in dust, has the olive wreath placed on his head. There is no podium, no national anthem. He is simply raised onto the shoulders of his friends, his face a mask of pure, painful elation. He is then shown returning to his home city-state. The entire town has come out to greet him.
A poet, like Pindar, is declaiming an ode written in his honor, a song that will outlive any trophy. The olive wreath was the symbol, but the true prize was Kleos, glory, renown, a form of mortal immortality.
When a victor returned home, he was a hero. Poets were commissioned to write victory odes, epic poems celebrating not just his win, but his character, his family, and his city. His name would be remembered for generations. In some cities, a section of the defensive wall was torn down for him to enter. The message being that a city that produces such men has no need for walls of stone. This was a prize integrated into the very fabric of society. It was fame, yes, but it was fame rooted in character and achievement, not just celebrity. It was a profound statement that the community's greatest asset was the excellence of its citizens. The screen shows two modern scenarios side by side. On one side, a young influencer poses with a product for a sponsored post, the caption full of hashtags. On the other, a master carpenter is quietly celebrated by her small team of apprentices as she puts the finishing touch on a magnificent piece of furniture. The lesson is to re-evaluate our definition of reward, to shift our focus from chasing fleeting, superficial metrics, likes, shares, hollow status symbols, to earning a deeper form of respect within our chosen community.
The Kleos we should seek is a reputation for integrity, for reliability, for being the person who always brings their best effort to the task, whether one person is watching or 10,000.
That is a glory that doesn't fade when the algorithm changes. The visuals return to the final of a foot race in ancient Olympia. Two runners are straining for the finish. One pulls ahead, but stumbles just before the line. The other, who was about to be beaten, crosses first. But instead of celebrating wildly, the victor immediately turns and helps his fallen rival to his feet.
There is a clear, undeniable moment of shared respect between them. Finally, the Greeks understood the paradox of competition. The goal was to win, but to be obsessed with winning at all costs. A condition they called philonikia was a vice.
The ideal was to be a good rival, to win with grace, and perhaps more importantly, to lose with honor. To push your opponent with all your might, and to thank them for forcing you to discover your own limits. Without their excellence, your victory would be meaningless. This transforms competition from a zero-sum game into a collaborative act of mutual elevation.
Your rival in business, in academia, in art, is not your enemy. They are the other half of your Agon. They are the whetstone. To compete with honor is to acknowledge that their success does not diminish your own, but rather raises the standards for everyone, pushing you all closer to Arete.
The screen returns to the single, gnarled olive tree in the ruins of Olympia. But this time it's dawn. The first light of a new day is hitting the leaves. The voiceover is now slower, more intimate. In the end, the most enduring lesson from these ancient games is a simple one. The gods did not ask for victory, they asked for a worthy struggle. The world will always provide external prizes. Gold medals, corner offices, public acclaim. But the Greeks knew that these were just shadows.
The real substance is the person you become in the pursuit. The discipline you build in the training, the character you reveal in the heat of the Agon, and the honor you show to those who strive alongside you.
Forget the gold medals. The prize is the process. The reward is the striving. The victory is the unwavering commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. That is the Olympic flame that can never be extinguished. And it is yours to carry, today. Final shot. The camera slowly zooms in on a single dew-covered olive leaf. Glittering in the morning sun, it is simple, perfect, and alive. Fade to black. The black screen holds for a moment longer than comfortable. Then, a single, sharp sound, the metallic scrape of a strigil against skin.
The screen cuts to a detailed, almost intimate close-up of an athlete scraping oil, sweat, and dust from his arm. But this commitment to the struggle, to Arete, was so total that it manifested in the most radical way imaginable.
It's the one detail everyone remembers, but few truly understand. They were naked. A wider shot reveals the athlete in a bustling open-air gymnasium.
All the men around him, young and old, are nude. The atmosphere is not sexual or shameful, but completely natural, like a force of nature. To the Greeks, competing nude, Gymnos, the root of our word gymnasium, was not an act of immodesty.
It was a radical act of transparency. It stripped away every marker of social status. On the sacred grounds of Olympia, you were not a rich man or a poor man, a general or a farmer. You were only the sum of your training, your discipline, and your character, exposed for all to see. It was the ultimate meritocracy. In our world, where we hide behind titles, brands, and curated online profiles, this is a terrifying thought, but it asks a piercing question. If you were stripped of all your external labels, what would be left? What is the core truth of your ability and your character? To compete naked is to compete without an excuse. And how did they build a mind capable of this? By understanding that the mind and body were not two separate entities in conflict, but a unified whole. Plato himself was a celebrated wrestler. The physical pain of training was seen as a philosophical tool. It taught you to distinguish between necessary suffering and the indulgent whining of the undisciplined soul. Their diet reflected this. Athletes trained on a simple, ascetic regimen of barley, figs, cheese, and water. It wasn't about bulking up for appearance, it was about building functional, resilient strength. It was the architecture of discipline, built one simple, deliberate choice at a time. The modern lesson is profound. Your physical habits, your diet, your exercise, your sleep, are not separate from your professional or creative ambitions. They are the very foundation upon which the temple of your potential is built. Visuals shift to a stylized montage of the 5 events of the pentathlon, a javelin soaring against the sky, the explosive grace of the long jump, the spinning power of the discus, the sprint, the final, grueling wrestling match.
The focus is on the seamless transition from one skill to the next. The ultimate expression of this unified ideal was the pentathlon. To be the victor in this event was perhaps the greatest honor of all, for it required a blend of skills, not just singular brute force or speed.
The pentathlete couldn't just be strong, he had to be graceful. He couldn't just be fast, he had to have stamina and technique. He was the embodiment of balance, versatility, and harmony. Aristotle called the pentathletes the most beautiful of all athletes because their bodies were developed for both strength and speed in equal measure. This is a powerful antidote to our modern obsession with hyper-specialization. The Greek ideal encourages us to be the pentathlete in our own lives, to cultivate a range of skills, to read outside our field, to learn an instrument, to be both the analyst and the artist.
It is in the synthesis of diverse abilities that true mastery, true arete, is found. The tone of the music shifts, becoming darker, more ominous. The visuals show a reenactment of a boxer, his face a mask of brutal intensity. The scene feels more violent than previous ones, but this relentless pursuit of excellence had a shadow. The Agon could curdle into something darker if it wasn't tempered by honor.
This is the cautionary tale of Cleomedes of Astypalaia. In a boxing match, consumed by a furious desire to win, he killed his opponent with a foul blow. It's a horrific story, but it illustrates the razor's edge the Greeks walked.
The drive for excellence, when poisoned by ego and a win-at-all-costs mentality, becomes a monstrous force. Arete requires self-mastery, not just mastery over an opponent.
The moment the struggle becomes about destroying your rival, rather than elevating yourself, you have already lost the only competition that matters. The music softens, becoming thoughtful again. The visuals transition to a modern-day scenario, a mentorship session. An experienced manager gives constructive, critical feedback to a junior employee.
It's tough, but respectful. So how do we guard against this shadow? The Greeks had the helonodikai, the judges who scrutinized character as much as performance.
We, too, must appoint our own judges. We need a personal board of directors, mentors, trusted colleagues, honest friends, who have the permission to hold us accountable, to call out our ego, and to remind us of our own principles when we are in danger of forgetting them in the heat of the fight, and we must find our own Pindar. The victory odes weren't just praise, they were a way of cementing the meaning of the victory into the culture. We must learn to articulate our own struggles and successes, not for bragging rights, but for clarity. Keep a journal. Share the lessons of a hard-won project with your team. Celebrate the process, not just the outcome. This turns a personal achievement into a piece of communal wisdom. The stone is worn smooth by the feet of thousands of forgotten athletes.
For every Milo of Croton, there were countless men who trained for years, made the long journey, and went home with nothing but dust on their skin and the searing memory of the Agon.
And that was enough. Because they understood that the real stadium was not the one at Olympia. The real stadium is the one we carry inside us. It is the silent, unseen space where we face our own resistance, our own laziness, our own fear. The sacred truce we declare is the moment we choose to begin. The opponent we face is the person we were yesterday. And the olive crown we seek is woven from the daily, thankless, glorious effort of showing up to that private contest. Final shot, a close-up of a modern runner's feet. They are standing behind a starting line. They are not in a stadium, but on a simple, quiet road at dawn. The runner takes a deep, steadying breath. The games have begun.